current food system is driven by profit. It's not driven by what is best for human beings. It's not driven by what is best for the environment. And so food sovereignty strives to put the shaping and defining of the food system in the hands of the consumers and the producers of food, as opposed to having that be controlled by market forces. When we formed the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network in 2006, Detroit was in a continuing economic downfall. And during that time period, what we found is that the remaining grocery stores that were in Detroit, the remaining national chain, they closed their last Detroit store. Also around that same time, a researcher from Chicago, Malik Yakini, came to Detroit and issued a study called Examining the Impact of Food Deserts on Public Health. And that highlighted and pointed out to many people the relationship between many of the diseases that people in Detroit were afflicted by and the lack of access to high quality, nutrient-dense, healthy food. Many Detroiters were obtaining food from what we call party stores or from gas stations. And so that report and the discussion around the report helped to elevate the discussion about food security in Detroit. In much of my life, I've followed kind of the footsteps that seem to be put in front of me. From 1989 to 2010, I was principal of Nsodoma Institute. In the late 1990s, we began to really seriously explore the relationship between concepts like food security, the culture of food, nutrition, the economics of food, between all those concepts and our desire to develop children who were rooted both in our own historical and cultural continuum, but more importantly, who had a sense of dedication to uplifting our communities.
One of the misfortunes is that for a lot of our children, for a lot of our community, we see agriculture and our relationship to agriculture in a very negative light, because often our only introduction is from a lens of oppression. Our enslavement, sharecropping, tenant farming. What I teach our children is that all of those things are true, but our history did not begin with our enslavement. And so when you begin from that frame of reference, it changes the whole mindset.
In 2005, I attended a workshop at Growing Power in Milwaukee. Growing Power was a nonprofit run by Will Allen, who many people consider to be the guru of urban agriculture. And on the way back from Growing Power, after I had this wonderful weekend experience with them growing using aquaponics systems and growing in hoop houses and raising animals and all kinds of things, on the way back, I began to jot notes in the back of the van on a notepad about forming what became the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, and called an initial meeting in February of 2006. And at that initial meeting, we had more than 40 people who attended, who became the co-founders of the organization, who agreed with this kind of outline of a shared vision that was laid out that included promotion of urban farming, working on the policy front to make sure that we had good food policy that enabled residents of Detroit to grow our own food and distribute it. The initial meeting also promoted cooperatives. And so initially our goal was to support existing co-ops, but also to create a new food co-op. So from the very beginning, from the very first meeting, creating a food co-op was one of the goals.
The land at Rouge Park, D-Town Farms, was originally an apple orchard. And so I think we saw an opportunity to take that land, and do something with it.
We have faith in the organization because we were building the organization. So from 2006 to 2010, we basically built this whole organization from an initial 2 acres to 7.5 acres.
We weren't in this to build the baddest, biggest nonprofit organization. We're in this to change the conditions that our community is faced with. And so we understood that changing conditions goes beyond any one organization, that we have to partner with others who have similar visions and similar goals in the city of Detroit. And so we did that.
What drew me to the organization the most is the commitment to Black liberation through food sovereignty. I think having autonomy over how you feed yourself and your community is of vital importance, and it's one of the key stepping stones and components of your actual economic empowerment.
So there are two separate entities. One is the member-owned, cooperatively owned grocery store. DBCFSN, Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network, is the nonprofit organization that helped lead and spearhead the work to raise the funding to purchase this land, build the building, create the banquet hall, as well as the food kitchens, and also stewards the 7-acre farm that sits inside of Rouge Park.
Previously, the organization has been solely grant funded. However, now that we're in this new facility, we have this banquet hall here, and then we also have the commercial shared kitchen. What we don't secure in grant funds, we're helping to offset that with the rental of the hall and also the rental of the kitchen. And it's such an even exchange with the community, because the community members get to come and have a beautiful space to have their events, or a space so that they can economically empower themselves via food businesses and things like that. And we also, get the trade-off that we are able to financially sustain ourselves as well.
We lead with love as our primary ethic, like the love for one another, the love for the land, the love for trying on all the new things that we need so that we can really get to the transformation that we're espousing to. I've always felt a deep sense of belonging in spaces like this. Trees, soil, worms, butterflies, all of these things always felt like the kin that they are to us as humanity.
I was a dance teacher at Baba Malik's school in Soroma Institute, and as the school was being closed down, I heard about the D-Town had an internship, and I applied for the internship, and I didn't realize how much I would love it. Just being out here is so peaceful. We don't run on very high stress, and it's different from being in the office, which I've done those type of jobs too. And this is far more my cup of tea. I feel like we have a symbiotic relationship with the planet. It's natural to grow your own food. I was a part of one of DBCFSN's children's program, which is called Food Warriors. We would go to different schools and create their organic gardens, and we would grow food. We would grow things like cherry tomatoes, carrots, and watching and observing the children put their hands in the soil and see what they planted grow, like the cherry tomatoes. You could have all the junk food in front of them, but they wanted to taste what they grew. So it's had a tremendous impact.
I would say that the evidence that I have seen and experienced within the local community, I have seen more optimistic energy. I have seen the transformation of the neighborhood itself. When I go into the building itself and I shop in the co-op, I see community members that I've known over time or that I may have just met that tell me that they're very excited and happy to be a part of this project. So I do see that regenerative spirit, but I also see the regenerative economy actualized.
I would hope that we would expand this. The youth coming up would expand this, and we have a whole series of co-ops all over the city and all over the state, and eventually all over the country. I mean, I think the co-op model is a model for the future.
Where we are today, I'm really, really proud. I'm even more excited that we've been embraced by the community. Without people coming here on Saturday and Sunday to buy vegetables, we couldn't have done it without them. We've garnered so much goodwill from the community and so much support. It makes me so proud. From our very first Harvest Festival, it is amazing the way it's grown, the way people show up for us, the way other gardening and farming organizations in the area show up for us. It's been amazing and wonderful.
Many of the things that we formed prior to getting any grant funding. For example, D-Town Farm, we formed with no grant funding. The Detroit Food Policy Council, we formed with no grant funding. The City of Detroit's food security policy, we wrote with input from others, let me say, with no grant funding. The creation of the Food Warriors Youth Development Program that was functioning at 3 different schools, we created with no grant funding. And so we had this tremendous sense of self-determination that this is what we have to do for our community, regardless of if anybody from the outside funds it or not. And so I'm very happy that we established ourselves in that way, because it gave us a tremendous sense of fortitude and a tremendous sense of confidence in our own abilities to move things forward with or without outside funding. But I also feel a sense that it's a shame that this has to be celebrated to the extent that it is. It's a shame that this is such an anomaly, that it's so unusual that Black people have band together to create a cooperatively owned grocery store and a building dedicated to building a local food system. This should be the norm, frankly. It's a shame that we continue to see in Black communities throughout the United States, including Detroit, the continued extraction of wealth by the food system. And so the fact that we have to celebrate this is a bit disturbing to me. So I'm holding these two things simultaneously. Yes, it is a victory. Yes, I am joyful to see this come into fruition. But also, there's hundreds of Black communities throughout the United States who need something similar in order to galvanize the consciousness of their community and to begin to push back against the extractive economy that we see within the food sector.
The farm is a gorgeous space, and we've been blessed with many gifts, monetary and non-monetary, to build what we see before us. And a lot of things need updating. We need new solar panels. We need a new windmill. We need a new pump for the water retention pond. Getting the resources to get those in place are a challenge.
I hope to push the organization into a direction of complete financial independence, to be non-grant dependent, for us to be able to support ourselves, which is, what Black liberation is all about. We want to be self-sustainable and self-supporting. That's my main goal here, but to also really just expand the education around Black food sovereignty. So we want to have, political education courses here, and just to get our people really, really excited and galvanized so that we can push this movement forward.
If we're not working together, we're really not going to get where we need to be. And DBCFSN represents what that communal ethic looks like.
And I'm hoping that the children's involvement, the youth involvement is continuing and expanded, and that we develop future leadership.
Many of us are absolutely convinced that our ancestors and the Creator have their hand on this project. And we've seen so many ways that when we didn't know how we were going to go forward, that an answer appears and that people appear. And so I'm very much rooted in that if we stay true to our principles and our values, we stay on our square, you could say, that whatever resources that we need to accomplish our goals will be provided.
For us, this represents limitless possibility. And that's where we begin. This is empowerment. This is self-determination. This is yes, we can, because yes, we did.